Welcome to the Sex, God, and Chaos podcast, a conversation built to help you address the mess, connect the dots, and defeat addiction. Doing your work matters because if nothing changes, then nothing changes. Life is tough and we're here to help. I'm your host, Ben Derrick, and as always, I'll be joined by Roane Hunter. Let's jump right in. Here we are again, my friend.
It is good to, I'm glad you called me. You said my friend. That validates me. Thank you.
Yes, I have to make up some ground for the 9.7 times out of 10 that I don't answer your phone calls.
Yes, that is a fact. And I returned the favor. I know, so much of that's just our crazy schedules and doing what we do. And I think it's probably a good thing that we are busy. And it's also a bad thing because a lot of people need help.
No doubt.
Yeah.
The more helpers that I am friends with and sit with, I think it is a point of commonality that you're engaged with people at a human level, which that's probably an episode in and of itself, but you just cannot be as attached to your device as other people are throughout the day. So we decided to solve that by starting a podcast.
Yes, yeah. On our devices. Yeah,
on our devices.
Yeah, but at least we do get to spend time together. It's awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes I just, you don't answer the phone, so I just fire up an episode of Sex, God, and Chaos, and I'm like, hey, we do the thing, right?
Yeah, I'll show up. I'll show up for that because it's just fun. It's a lot of fun, and even though we're talking about hard stuff, but it is, and it's certainly still amazing that we have the reach that we have, and people are tuning in, and so we are very appreciative of that fact. So I think we're doing something.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think we're doing something that actually helps.
That's the goal. I was sitting with an individual yesterday, I won't even say male or female, and they were letting me know that they started at episode 1 and then were binge listening and made it all the way to 7 before they finally went to bed. So, just the conversation in itself, I think is helpful to talk about the things that people don't talk about. But before we get to our topic, I'd really love to get your take on this. When you contacted me and we set up 2 little microphones there in that office, did you expect this at all?
No idea. Couldn't have even imagined that we would have people listening to us really, literally kind of all over the world.
Yes. Yeah.
It is, I always say it is surreal and it is very humbling, which I need a lot of, trust me. Yeah.
That's a big part of this effort, I think,
Not as much as you need it, but
that's what I was just about to say. Yeah, a huge part of this effort is, speaking to people in helper position before we get to topic, there's so many people out there that are in that helper position because they wanted to fix themselves, and then they feel like they did, and then they just set out to fix everybody else, and that level of arrogance that moves in, and this is across all positions, all vocations that are helping people out of a jam. Doing things like this, I think admitting where we're struggling, even current day, the things that we're working through, processing through, honestly, it's just an important part of my own sobriety and maturity as a guy out there trying to help folks, that we can sit down behind a microphone and literally someone in Morocco can hear me talk about the problems in my marriage. It's something that keeps your feet on the ground.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like I tell the guys in all the different gatherings that I'm a part of, I tell them, I'm not a part of this because I'm the answer man. I'm a part of it because I desperately need it. And it helps me just, stay on track, and certainly reminds me that of the gift that has been given, and just this idea of like recovering the life that God intended us to recover, because I think that's what recovery ultimately is. And so it does help keep you very grounded. And when you hear when a new guy shows up and, man, he's just in the middle of it, it's just such a reminder, man, I wanna stay on my path. I wanna stay on
Mm.
my path. Not that I have pity for him. I have, like, tons of compassion because I've been where he's been. And so just being able to help somebody out of that hole because we've been in the hole
Mhm.
and we know the way out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's 100% it. I mean, where we're going today, I think is going to be helpful, obviously, or we wouldn't be talking about it. But sometimes I think it's important, especially for those listeners that are with us week after week, just to hear like, hey, this is real life for us, and they're hard fought battles. And until I know what someone has survived, I really don't care what they have to say. And if I've got that standard over other people, then I'm going to lay that standard over myself as a man as well. And also, just to
Absolutely.
give a shout out to our female listeners, I think some people assume it's just only porn addicted men that would listen to this podcast, but we have a lot of women listening in, and it still honestly shocks me when someone approaches me in person and says, "Hey, someone suggested this for my husband, but I've been listening to it. It's been very helpful to kind of look in and get a
Yeah.
window into the mind of a man, into the mind of therapy." So it's just a
The
gift, man. It's a gift for us to be able to do this together.
it is a funny story around that. Eva, she does a group for partners, on Monday nights, when, I'm doing the group for the men, and one of the ladies, showed up, a new person, and, Eva started talking, and she said to Eva, "Oh, she heard Eva's voice.
Mhm.
"You're the podcast lady." And one of the others that knows Eva and her love of doing the podcast said, "Oh, you just touched her greatest fear." But Eva was, is again, as you say, we do have a lot of women that do listen, and certainly, we appreciate, that, because partners and marriage is one of the reasons we do what we do, because I always say we are changing generations. If we can get a marriage kind of put back together and not only survive but to thrive, then those children will actually benefit greatly, and it will be passed on to generations.
Mm.
So it is a much bigger picture than just somehow getting sober from porn or something.
This episode of Sex, God, and Chaos is brought to you by the Samson Society, a community of men who are tired of pretending and ready to start living in the light. For a lot of us, the hardest part of change isn't admitting we have a problem, it's believing we don't have to face it alone. That's what Samson Society is all about: brotherhood, honesty, and grace for men walking through struggles. There's no judgment, no posturing, and no perfect people allowed. Just men showing up, telling the truth, and finding freedom together. Whether you're a pastor, a husband, a businessman, or a guy who's just tired of being stuck, you'll find people who get it and who won't let you stay where you are. It's a place where every man has a place at the table. If you're ready to stop hiding and start healing, visit SamsonSociety.com. That's SamsonSociety.com, because isolation destroys men, but brotherhood brings them back to life.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of the bigger picture, like where are we going today? What's the topic?
Oh, man, I guess I would, I don't know, we're gonna hit on a few things, but, I think, if I could sum it up, it would just be on attachment,
Okay.
and kind of this, attachment theory and counseldom. Um, it's an important piece to understand, because attachment, occurs as soon as we're born. And then, the baby is placed on the mother's chest, skin to skin contact, bonding is occurring, and ultimately it's attachment. And then, eye to eye contact, and skin contact, both of those release oxytocin in the brain. And that's bonding is starting to occur. And so attachment is pretty important to understand, and kind of how, what happened, in just looking at sexual brokenness, which, just a side note, we just did our ITAP symposium, which is our CSAT training. We have to continually get CEUs. And one of the terms that I kept hearing that popped up, and I think it's probably moving more in the direction of this in some ways, is, I don't know if it's moving away from the term sexual addiction. Uh, we always call it sexual brokenness because it's much more compulsion. It's compulsive and impulses versus addiction, and there's some semantics there. But it's, the term was problematic sexual behavior. PSB, and there, people were even using the acronym or the PSB, and so I think it's becoming more of a common term, and I like that because it moves us out of addiction. Because when a wife hears that, and again, I'm doing an intensive this weekend for betrayed husbands. That's a thing too. Doesn't get a lot of airplay, but betrayal trauma is betrayal trauma. And when you hear the term addiction, man, it's like this is going to be a forever kind of an issue. Once an addict, always an addict, as they say. And when you talk about it in terms of like sexual brokenness or problematic sexual behavior, to me, there's a lot more hope there than when we label it as addiction. So I just think that's really important to kind of distinguish that. And the reason I like say that, even with these betrayed husbands, one of the assessments that we use is called the IPAST, IPAST, the inventory for partner. I'll get it all wrong. Adjustment, stress, trauma, I think. But it uses the term addiction in the assessment. And again, it's not always compulsion and certainly not addiction. So, I mean, these terms and these labels, they kind of create a story, create an image. And I just think, using the correct terms is probably important just from a healing and hope standpoint. And so this idea of attachment is all part of that, as far as what's happening and why we become compulsive around certain behaviors. And because we're made for connection, human beings are made for attachment. That's the created design. And when attachment is kind of, not necessarily broken, but when emotional attachment is not in the mix, then we're going to find something that we will attach to that provides some type of comfort, some type of nurturing, some type of soothing type of behavior. So understanding attachment in this realm, I think, is highly important.
I would agree with you. I think this conversation, if I could just be honest, is one of the hardest that I have with men and women when you start talking about attachment, because it feels like it throws the individual straight into this nostalgia, responsibility to parent. Meaning I've got a responsibility to those that raised me to talk about them publicly in a particular way, or they did a lot of things for me. I just run into a lot of apologies for mom and dad. It's just a minefield. So I would love to talk about attachment maybe from a non-clinical perspective. I know that can get a little bit dicey with what you guys have going on in your practice, but just as a primer for someone who's like, yeah, I've heard this attachment, I've seen it run across TikTok a lot. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, I think that's awesome to just kind of put it in layman terms. Let's take a shot at that. sometimes you'll hear the word disattunement. And as you know, when we're working with men at our men's coaching weekends, in our groups, in our offices, boy, when you start talking about emotional connection or disattunement, it is the hardest thing for a guy to wrap his head around. And as you said, what we will hear, Dad, I grew up in a great family. Mom and Dad, they were there. Nobody was an alcoholic. There wasn't any physical abuse, and nobody was cheating on anybody, and they were good all the stuff, man. And it's like, well, last time I checked, unless they were aliens teleported in from another planet, parents are broken just like we are. And the Bible's very clear about that. Even in the fifth commandment, and you touched on it, this idea of family loyalty, honor your mother and father. Boy, now that's a crazy maker. And always, if you go to the extreme, you can kind of see it, understand it. Well, let's say mom and dad were crackheads and they locked you in the closet with your brothers and sisters, and they every now and then threw some food in there, and then they'd let you out some, and then they'd burn you with cigarettes to get you back into the closet. And then when you turned 18, they let you go. We would say that probably would be hard to honor in the English definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
The English word honor. And when you look at the Hebrew around that word honor, the word there is the pictogram is easier to understand because it's the picture of a scale. Okay, honor, scale. How did they get there? That's one of those questions I'll have to ask when I get to heaven, I guess. But I think it's a mistranslation because of what it does to us in this idea of just can't say anything bad about mom and dad. Well, what God is saying, this is kind of right out of the gate. This is early. If you look at the picture of a scale, what God is saying, you've got to weigh it out. You've got to see the good. You've got to see the bad. Mom and dad are broken just like we are. We live in a broken, fallen world. There's generational dysfunction that's been passed down from the fathers and the mothers. And so God is saying that we have to be aware of what we got, what we did not get from mom and dad. And then it's got a double meaning because those primary relationships, they will carry weight in every relationship that we are in unless we figure it out and begin to correct. And so it's really the emotional disattunement. I'll use the $10 psychobabble word. But there's so much out there now around emotional intelligence. We talk about EQ. It's kind of a common term. Well, if there's emotional intelligence, then there's also emotional ignorance, right? And again, that's just, factually, that has to be true. And so when parents, a mom or dad or both, are emotionally, maybe just emotionally unaware, it may be that they are emotionally neglectful. There's like things that are going on in your life, and you go to them. And as a boy, you go to dad and like, Dad, I'm really upset because I got cut from the baseball team. And dad says, well, suck it up, Buttercup. You need to get better, or something like that. We would call that emotionally neglectful, right? Because those emotions that we all have, they were not comforted. And then there's just emotional ignorance, just kind of oblivious to the fact that there are emotions and we actually have them. Not just women, but men have them too. And so that attachment piece, part of it is the emotional attunement, the emotional connection that creates the bond, because now I'm getting those emotions that they're spoken into. And like if Dad had said, "Oh gosh, son, boy, I really get that. I understand how hurtful that is for you. I've had things in my life like that, where I've been really hurt and disappointed." Uh, and Dad's coming around that rather than just completely shutting that down and neglecting that. And then that's why, this with pornography, when we talk about attachment, because just this idea of safety is an important part. We want to feel, I mean, certainly physical safety. I think everybody gets that. Physical safety is basic need. But when there's not emotional safety, we are going to move towards something that provides some level of comfort. And so if I get that, and I'm just, picking on dads because we're men, it's easy. It's like the Father's Day sermon, it's very different than the Mother's Day sermons. Don't go there. You know
Nope.
what I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah, it's like, Dad, you need to be a better man or whatever. But if 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 that emotional comfort is not there, and we've already probably discovered porn, because today, especially, the average age of exposure to hardcore pornography is around 9 years old. And so it's already there in some way. And then when we start going to that, and I start attaching to this thing that actually, from a brain body connection, man, does it ever loving provide comfort? I mean, oh boy, it provides, man, it's safe because it's always there. It's never going to let me down. And I'm getting basic emotional needs met that are not being met in other ways, which should come from our parents, from the day we're born until actually we turn out and leave the home around 18. And so I start going to this thing, taking my hurt, my pain that I don't have an outlet to go even express it to, because I mean, what can you do as a boy? Walk into the locker room and tell your buddies on the football team, today, guys, I'm really sad. And you remember how all the guys came around you and just kind of like, oh man, tell me more, Ben, tell me more.
Even the coach.
And yeah, oh yes, the coach did. Wasn't it great? And there were group hugs, and you probably didn't even go to practice. I mean, remember that? Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way on our side of the fence. But we've discovered this thing, and certainly it's not always porn. It can be, we start discovering alcohol, we start discovering drugs. And what we're beginning to do is we're forming bonds with an object rather than a human being, because it's kind of it's like survival, right? Because I'm either going to go I want connection, but when connection is not there, I'm going to go to protection, and I'm going to connect with something that helps protect my damaged emotions in some way.
It is
I don't know if that was a good kind of layman's definition, but it's just understanding that this emotional connection and attachment is so important.
No, I think it was great because in the layman's definition, I didn't mean a dumb definition. I just meant a layman's definition, and that definition shows, not just implies, but shows the complexity of all of this. And as always, I think we need to snap this into the future in the circumstance where a marriage is sitting in an office, or God forbid, their first place to go is a pastor in this scenario, or peer. That can be very dangerous. But and they're thinking like, how could this person do this? What sort of monster is this person? I don't even know them. It's like, well, what you're going to get with someone who's actually educated about these things is this is a complicated, tangled mess that started a very long time ago that actually is the enemy's interruption in the connection one person to another. And we're all built for connection. And the enemy has sold our culture a lie for generations that we actually aren't. And we're even replicating it in art. Like we love the Lone Ranger. We love 007. Those guys are a joke. They don't exist. It's not real. But we all kind of think that we should be that way. But when that connection is disrupted, it leads to a lot, and this is the word that I use with my clients, it leads to a lot of very predictable things. And
Doesn't it though?
Impulsivity and compulsivity around spending, around achievement, around food, around substances, around pornography, like that is the natural conclusion of being disconnected or people not being connected to you that should be. What I'd like to do is take a little bit of a left here because I don't know that we do this enough, but I know there's a lot of listeners to this podcast that grew up in religious environments, often restrictive religious environments. And those are the people that struggle the most with this topic because they will say, my dad was a good man. And then they'll tell me all about, the plaques that their dad has or the professional success, or we took a deep sea fishing trip one time and he really prioritized me. And I get all, and I'm not trying to mock here, but it's almost sad to watch this start to take place. So the people who grew up in those environments, I just want to give them a little bit of a handhold here. If you grew up in a religious, especially conservative Christian home, and you struggle with this idea of attachment, like I had good parents, like, okay, great, you good. I don't need to demonize your parents. However, when it comes to attachment, I think in those types of homes, it comes down to two things. It comes down to timing and type. And this is where we talk about the humanness of parents. Parents can miss timing because they're going through their own things.
Yes.
No telling what their professional life is like, no telling what their marriage is like, no telling what their history with God and the church is like, or how they were parented that they're not being honest about probably because they're an older generation. This is kind of a newer thing to be honest about publicly. So they can miss timing. The example I give is I had a breakup in whatever grade. I'm sitting at the dinner table and I'm obviously giving signs of physical sadness, hoping that someone will ask me a question and rescue me. We go through dinner. It never happens. I go upstairs and do my homework, and then I have that message received. I'm on my own here. I don't matter. No, I could not have been more blatant about how sad I was. So they just missed me with timing in this hypothetical. The other is type, and I think this really falls onto dads a lot. We don't know how to be there for our children emotionally, so we're going to go out and wash their car or buy them a new car, right?
Yes.
Or plan a vacation or DoorDash something that we know they like. And as a kid, none of that stuff really matters. That is not the type of connection that I'm looking for. Maybe you're doing the best that you can. I don't really accept that excuse anymore, but I did early in my therapy. Maybe you're doing the best that you can, but that type is not the type that I needed. So just to give some categories for those Christian kids out there or those religious kids out there of any type that were raised in an extremely conservative environment, it's possible to have, quote, air quote, good parents and good parents not be good at attachment, right?
Amen. Well, and certainly, dysfunction is present in every home. I mean, there's
You don't
degrees.
mean it. You
There's
don't mean it.
degrees of it. There are degrees, and I think it's kind of God's design, because if there wasn't any, children would never leave. And believe me, when they turn 18, 17, probably 16, you're ready for them to leave. I mean, it's time, right?
Time, yep.
That's just part of it. And I think it's just certainly God's, part of the design. And part of it is that our children, they've got to kind of figure out their own path. And then they've got to begin to deal with their own humanity in whatever way that comes. That's called life. And when we get out there and start adulting, we really figure out, man, life is hard. It's one of the first lessons. It is the first lesson that every boy needs to learn to become a man. And that's just a fact. And so God's design, he kind of sets it up this way, ultimately, I think, to just bring us to the end of our rope. So we get on our knees and we cry out to him for help.
Hmm.
A four-letter word for men. Because I think so many men are just, man, it's like I suffer from chronic hyper independence. I've got this, I've got to figure it out, because that's what we learned along the way. And the thing about emotional regulation, it has to be, it is borrowed before it is owned, right? We're learning how to emotionally regulate by the people around us, and the people around us when we're little are those big people that we call parents. And when they don't know how to emotionally regulate or emotionally attach, we're going to have problems. We're going to find something that provides the emotional comfort that we're looking for. And porn works just, man, it's highly effective, and it's certainly very insidious because that emotional regulation gets hijacked by this thing that is providing this false sense of temporary comfort. And when you get exposed to pornography at an early age, well, I mean, again, just brain formation. The brain's not fully developed. I think in men it's about 40, but they say 25. And so all of these things are just developmentally the things that should be naturally occurring. But there again, we don't live in an ideal world. And so this attachment is formed to this thing that works tremendously. And it's like the body and the brain, it's a both and, have been hijacked by this insidiously evil emotional surrogate that's masquerading as false comfort and nurturing. And the earlier that exposure happens, that's the harder it is to like break those ties with that thing that has worked for you for a very long time. And that's kind of the double bind. The emotional attachment bind is that it works very effectively until it doesn't.
Okay, I want to slow down for just a second, because I know we graze up against this in quite a few episodes. But your position on pornography is much different than a lot of people, even in the therapy world, but definitely a lot of people who are just married to someone who's viewing porn. The instant interpretation of someone who's viewing porn is that they're a monster, they're a pervert,
Oh yeah.
they're addicted, they're broken beyond repair. It's something only God and the Holy Spirit can solve. It's just like, this person is over the edge, and we need to back up, get divorced, wish we were never married. All this stuff rushes in because we just have this certain view. I've seen spouses handle better that their partner was doing cocaine on a golf course. I've seen them handle that better than I'm viewing pornography on my iPhone. So this is a really emotionally charged topic, but what you're proposing, or what I'm hearing, and I know because we live life together, is that this is not that type of behavior. It is distress reduction behavior. It is what I've learned to do from 9 years old to cope with or to handle unwanted emotions. I don't know how to regulate. All I know how to do is get relief. and this relief is extremely effective. And then it throws me into shame, which takes me back to the source of needing some relief. And I just want to slow down and explain this as clearly as we possibly can for people who are finding this particular episode in that moment or those weeks after discovery of some sort of pornography use, that there is a backstory, there is a setup, and it makes a lot of sense. And it really, and this is where I'm setting you up here, it really has nothing to do with sex, right?
Exactly. I mean, and that's the hardest thing for women partners to understand, is that it's not about sex at all. We were sold this bill of goods. I think every man that I work with, and that so many men that are part of all that we do, any of us, if we could go back somehow at 8, 9 years old, 10, to whenever it was presented to us, man, we would have been like Joseph when he's being seduced. Potiphar's wife's trying to seduce him, and he literally runs out of that room. I think every one of us would have run from this stuff because, I mean, at that age, what do we know? We know that, Dad looks at it now, Granddad looked at it, looks at it, uncles, brothers. It's just kind of like air and water. And so we pick it up. And then now it's hijacked us, the body and the brain, because it actually works very effectively, but it has nothing to do with sex. And that's the hardest part for wives to understand, because certainly there's other women involved, even obviously if it's not to minimize pornography, but if it's just porn. And so she will personalize it because in her mind, it's about another woman. You don't love me. And the vast majority, I mean, there's exceptions, of course. The vast majority of men that I work with, they are devastated when the wife, when discovery happens, and now they start beating the divorce drum. And in some cases, certainly, divorce may be the most loving thing that you can do for yourself and for the other person. That's a whole nother episode. But most guys, they love their wives, they love their family, their children, and I just always liken it to, they've had cancer, and this cancer has been growing inside. And now we've run the test, cancer's been discovered, and now we've got to apply the chemo and radiation to the cancer. But there's a lot of hope, because if a guy does get plugged in, he gets connected, he begins to do his work, and we say it all the time, and we get to see it and witness it, that guys actually do get better. And then they are maintaining sobriety, and not just that, but man, what you see is a whole life transformation, and they're beginning to apply these principles of I would just call it wisdom. We could call it the Bible. It's beginning to take hold and take root, and then you begin to see it in every relationship that they're in, relationship with their kids, relationships at work, guys that own their own companies, beginning to impart this way of living into their company. Now, man, that's when it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, the positive effects just spread so far. And
yes.
I think just to paint a picture, to get back to attachment, what is being asked, and it's not just males, it's females. So many females addicted to pornography these days.
Yes.
What's being asked in those moments is taking a person who doesn't know how to attach in the ways that matter to them because they were missed, to tell them to detach from their only mechanism that brings them comfort when they're dysregulated, and to replace that by attaching to a spouse. So you're asking them to do two things that feel impossible, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how to. They have no reps. They have no experience. And, it ends up being one of those things where, like, it doesn't take much information. It really doesn't take much information for people to understand, oh, okay, what it takes is reps, and it takes grace, and it takes time, and it takes truth, and it takes openness to feedback. All of those things that should have been happening, which I know we're careful about shoulding. That's kind of a dangerous habit, but those things that should have been happening in real time at 9 years old. Just the basic fact that you view hardcore pornography at 9 years old, you don't understand what's happening, but you're aroused by it and attracted to it. You should be able to say in your mind and in your heart, I need to talk to my dad about this. I don't know what to do. Same as if you were to view a car accident on your way to school one day, your parents would be like, are you okay? I know that was really, really unsettling. Let's go to school late today. Let's swing by Chick-fil-A and talk about this. It should be the same reaction. The child should be able to know I'm safe enough to bring this to my caretakers because I don't know what to do with this. But if you have that initial reaction of I must hide this, a little bit of that is being human being, but a lot of that is what environment was set in your home. I mean, let's just be honest about it. So when you get into this situation as an adult where life gets even more, I would say infinitely more complicated, and the opportunities to be dysregulated are 50 times a day, then what do we do with this? And I think I want to get on a soapbox just for 2 seconds, and I do mean that we live in a culture that hates masculinity. It hates masculinity. And I think the culture hates femininity too, because it's bastardized it into something ridiculous.
Totally.
But it certainly is aggressive against masculinity. So now I don't know how to regulate. The culture around me hates me. And I'm disconnected from the person that I love the most, but I know that I'm hurting them behind closed doors. Like, this is a really bad scenario. And to hand a guy the attachment worksheet
Yes.
during that time is a little difficult. But I think the idea of being able to answer the question, do you know what it means to regulate difficult emotions without depending on a substance or something external? Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
And I think most people would say no.
Well, and that's, man, that's the biggest thing that we see is when this stuff hits the table, it's discovered, and now what you have in that moment, there's a crisis stage with this always, is two emotionally dysregulated people. The spouse is suffering with truly betrayal trauma, which mirrors PTSD. And then I'll use me as an example. Like I have no idea what to do because I've never ever dealt with negative emotions previously, because all that was hijacked by porn and the problematic sexual behavior. And so now, what do you do? I've got no idea. And that's why what we know, man, we always say the cure for what ails us, it is connection. I've got to get plugged in. I've got to get connected. I've got to get engaged with other men. It can't be other women. That's a bad idea. In order to begin to practice like intimacy. And those are, being told hard things by men that I trust, because that has to be in place. It can't be, the guy that I just listened to on Sunday and waves at me as I walk out the door. Hard to trust that guy. Probably shouldn't. But I've got to get engaged on a regular basis, what we call doing life together with other men, where I'm beginning to talk about these negative emotions. I'm beginning to bring that pain. I'm beginning to bring that hurt out into the light, as we are told to do, walk in the light. And then what I'm receiving from that is what we call a corrective relational and emotional experience. Because now what's actually happening is healthy attachment bonds are forming in that corrective experience. And that is, I believe, is the only way that works. You can read 1,000 books, you can listen to 1,000 sermons, you can go to 1,000 counseling sessions, which we highly recommend, by the way, for no doubt. But where the rubber meets the road is when you begin to form these intimate relationships, and you're beginning to experience love and acceptance for the hurt that you've caused, the hurt that has been done to you, all of those things that we needed that we did not get when we were growing up. And so it is the only way that it's going to actually get better. And just like that scenario you mentioned earlier, okay, the girlfriend has broken up with you and you're 14 or whatever, and you're at the table. Well, the thing of it is, even at 14, we don't have the emotional language to even express what we're even feeling in that moment, because it is probably, maybe it's the first time we felt that level of rejection, and we don't even know what to do with it. And if we have parents that are attuned emotionally, they would take one look at you and go, "Man, Ben, what's going on?" Right? And then you start backing that up to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All of those, there's tons of instances like that. And again, it's not blaming parents, because they're busy, they have their own stuff going on, and most of the time just unaware of the deep effect of this emotional neglect, emotional ignorance, emotional unawareness. But that attunement is when you're able to just look at your child and go, "Hey, tell me what's going on. You seem like you're hurting right now. You seem really sad." Whatever. And it's just giving them that outlet and that freedom to be able to talk about the hurt that we all experience.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm going to take a second to celebrate my wife here. This is something she's taught me, which that does happen, by the way, for all the men listening. Wives do have something to teach you from
They
time
really
to time.
do. Yeah, especially when it comes this emotional stuff.
Exactly. That's you beat me to it. But my wife will she'll look at me, but she'll especially look at our sons. We have 18 and 15 now, and she'll say something's off. Just something's off. And that is very invitational, because it gives my sons the ability to first say, "No, it's not," because they're dudes. "No, it's not," and then she can say, "No, I mean, something's off. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but I would love for you to talk to me about it." And these are what we call our kitchen conversations, sitting there at the bar in the kitchen. For most of us, though, that didn't happen, especially those of us that are 40 plus, 30 plus. The interesting part of what it turns into, I think, is I'm sitting here listening to you and thinking about all the guys that are in groups and women that are in groups, really all over the world, people listening to us. What happens, though, that translates into, and this maybe needs to be another episode, is you have to be able to sit with a group of adults as an adult and receive the feedback of how people are experiencing you. That's the grown-up version of the dinner table. For a group of men to be able to sit around and say, "Man, I'm experiencing you just as like so wound up," or "You are so self-deprecating," or one of the most popular ones lately has been, "You use humor to keep people from getting to know you." So to receive that feedback is basically a group of people playing that parental role, if you'll allow me to say that, to say, "I see you, and I see what's going on enough to know that's probably not the real you. That's something that you've put together as a way to cope because nobody's seeing you." So it's kind of this white flag of, hey man, I know you're sitting in this room because you're a porn addict and your life is blown up. But really, I think the problem is you're just telling a bunch of jokes so that nobody really gets to know Ben. That kind of feels like the problem. Man, that's a hard pill to swallow when you've propped that mask up since you were 9 years old. It's a necessary part of learning how to be attached, right?
Oh, totally. Well, and again, I think I said it earlier. We're either going to go to we're either going to move to protection or move to connection. And in order to move to connection, I've got to lower that mask, whatever it is, uh, using humor, spiritual bypassing, spiritual band-aid, going to work, working more, whatever it is. And so in order to gain connection, I have to lose the protection.
And you can only do that, as you referenced already, with a group of people that you can trust. So I'm going to plant this here in this episode for future episode. I would love for us to do like a top 10 checklist. How do I know if I can trust this person? How do I know if I can trust this group? Because a lot of people get stuck there, and God forbid someone be vulnerable in a group that they can't trust. Because most times, if that happens and they get betrayed, they'll never do it again. They'll never do it again. So,
Amen.
I think what I'd like to do as we're wrapping up today is just encourage, however you would encourage, next step, next 2 steps, 3 steps on, okay, how do I start to get attached to showing up at Sunday school, or, going to I set you up there.
That was easy.
Going to play pickleball with a group of guys.
There you go.
Like, what do I do to start learning how to be attached? Because this is a very frightening, vulnerable. It's like getting up and saying your lines in the elementary school play. It's just terrifying to try to figure out how to do this.
It is. And I would say that, man, the biggest thing is that you've got to risk. You've got to really. We need to do an episode on what's a safe person. Number one, you got to find safe people. My experience has been that that typically it's not necessarily the church guy. It can be, and I mean, I truly, so many of the guys that are part of our community, men's community here, as we call it, are guys that, like, I just, it's kind of like the parent, looking at the child. Oh man, that guy, something's off.
Mhm.
and I'll just go engage a conversation. And man, some of those guys now are less, part of my SEAL team, my penguin squad, as we like to call it. But they're guys that I trust, right? Because they were willing to risk and open up about what's really going on with them too. And when I say the church guy, that's just kind of a blanket statement for the guy that you talk to, and maybe you reveal something, and then he looks at you and says, "Oh man, I'm going to be praying for you." Yeah, that's not a safe person. A safe person is when you reveal something. Well, they join you there, and they reveal something, and then you've got something to work with, and those relationships can go much deeper because you've got two willing people. They're willing to risk the possibility that this person is going to, like, I don't know, take them out back and, beat them with a Bible or throw rocks at them or something. But I think, part of that is just like identifying and figuring out what's a safe person. And a lot of times it may be the guy that you work with. I developed some really close, deep friendships with guys that I work with because I was willing to risk talking about what was really going on with me. And so it's out there, but you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, there's an art to it, right? Of getting the other guy to go first, just by asking some very basic questions.
Oh, it's pretty simple.
It really isn't that hard. Like, have you ever like really disappointed your wife? Or Have you ever been through like a difficult work transition, or what's your experience with church? I mean, there are a couple of questions you can float out there to get some signals like, oh, okay, well, I can match that level of vulnerability in the beginning. And one of the places where we see this kind of go awry is once that attachment starts to happen, especially for men who have never had it before, then they over attach. Right?
That happens too.
And they want to sit around and have coffee and lunch and cigars and like, you are my person now. We're going to sit 4 times a week. We're going to just process all of this stuff. So I think,
what about Bob?
the second layer of this, exactly, baby steps.
Yes.
The second layer of this is the person, to truly be a safe person, has to be willing to let you know with clarity their own boundaries. And we see a lot in our men's community that can sever relationships very quickly when a person becomes over attached, and then a healthy person says, "Well, like, whoa, man, I'm willing
it's too much.
Yeah, I'm willing to share life with you. I'm not willing to like marry you. Like,
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
I've already got a wife. I've already got kids. I've already got purpose. Like we are co-laboring. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to slip into that parental position for you for life. And there are lots of men walking around even this town that got their feelings hurt and can't get over it, which really isn't a sign that the community's broken. It's a sign that they've got some unresolved stuff there. But I think that's a different episode again. Like we're just launched. I'm writing all these down, but I would be careful for those that are investigating attachment. I would be careful to not take it too far too quickly. Because you're going to latch onto something that it's so life-giving you can't imagine doing it over time, protracted with a pace.
Dude, that's just a great kind of warning, because you've been there, I've been there, and I love Brene Brown's acronym that she uses around that. She calls it BIG. I want to be well-boundaried, living in my integrity, and be generous to others in my life.
Yeah.
And in that well-boundaried piece, I think we have done episodes on that. There's not enough. It's the most misunderstood thing in counseling world. But man, I just always say wholeness is, I believe, the Bible calls it maturity. Wholeness is somebody that is emotionally regulated and relationally functional. And to be either one of those, you have to be well-boundaried. And that's my integrity. What I will do, what I won't do, what I will accept, what I won't accept. And, again, that's probably 10 episodes we could talk about that.
To learn more about what you've heard today and to engage with the Sex, God, and Chaos team, visit sexgodchaos.com.